a man finds himself drawn to a mysterious land where lives a singing flame. He's not the only one. One by one, visitors from across the cosmos find themselves so enchanted by it that they inevitably congregate there to throw themselves into the flame just to become one with it. A wayward colossus of living human bodies stomps its way through a dark countryside. Instead of running away in terror, one man is overcome with awe at the sight and chases it down in hopes to become part of it. A woman inhales a mysterious spore. As it slowly colonizes her body, she finds that she somehow feels better than ever. She thinks of the infection as a brightness growing inside her. These are all undeniably cosmic horror stories. Their protagonists are most definitely victims of existentially terrifying fates. But they don't seem to see it that way. To them, what they're experiencing is less cosmic horror and more cosmic bliss. If you watch a lot of this channel, you're no stranger to this concept. We made a whole video about it last year. Back then, I was really trying to describe it as a matter of perspective. Sometimes cosmic horror just isn't scary because to some people, these are just incredible brushes with the sublime. But the comment section on that video didn't quite agree. A lot of you said that this whole cosmic bliss thing actually freaks you out, that it's weird to see someone run toward this kind of horror. Weird to see them not just unafraid, but excited. The overwhelming sentiment is that this sort of unwilling, euphoric excitement about the prospect of self-dissolution is somehow scarier than cosmic horror itself. And after giving it a lot of thought, I think I actually agree with you. In the recent game Still Wakes the Deep, you play as Kaz, a man on the run from the police after brutalizing someone else in a fight. Hoping to lay low until everything blows over, Kaz leaves his wife and daughters for a few months and gets a job on an oil rig out at sea. For a while, it sort of works out for him. Kaz's best friend is there with him. He's good at his job. He's evaded the cops. I mean, his boss is a dirtbag and his wife keeps threatening divorce, but that's life, right? One day, the rig happens to drill into the wrong patch of seafloor and awakens something. It rises out of the ocean and starts growing out through the rig like some kind of fleshy kudzu plant, transforming everyone it touches into gibbering abominations. Kaz spends the entire game running around trying his best to fix things. First, he thinks that maybe he can escape via helicopter. Except, no, the helicopter blows up. Well, at least there's the lifeboat. Yep, never mind. The lifeboats literally do not work. Oh, what's that? The whole rig is sinking? Well, guess it's time to slink around in the dark recesses of the rig's bowels so we can tinker with the rig's flotation system and buy just a little more time. You spend the entire game this way, running around doing little maintenance tasks. Oh here, pull this lever, turn that winch, troubleshoot the generator. Again. It quickly starts to feel like a lot of aimless busy work. You'll notice your objectives gradually become less ambitious. At first, you're trying to escape. Then, you're trying to survive. In the end, you're just trying to stave off the inevitable for a little longer, buying yourself any spare seconds you can manage. And before long, even that starts to feel pretty pointless. I mean, the rig is already destroyed beyond repair. You're surrounded by grotesque knots of flesh that used to be your friends. Every time you think you've solved a problem, 12 more emerge. You're going to die here. What's the point of all this? At the end of the game, Kaz finally accepts this. The rig is a fireball in the middle of the ocean and all your friends are dead, or worse. Even if someone were to show up to save you, who's to say this thing wouldn't hitch a ride to the mainland? The entire world could be at stake, unless you end this now. For the majority of the game, Kaz is driven by his fear. The whole reason he got a job on the rig in the first place is because he was afraid of facing jail time. All of these pointless tasks after the rig's infestation are just attempts to stave off a grisly fate. At the end of the game, right before he sacrifices himself, Kaz's last living friend tells him to be brave for once in his life. Despite his just having spent hours swimming through oil and sneaking past mutants, the only really courageous thing that Kaz does, the thing that ends up mattering, is finally turning around to face his fears. The very last action prompt in the game isn't jump or sprint or hide. It's let go. There is one more scene in the game. It takes place before all of this. We see through Kaz's eyes as he wakes up on the morning of his departure. This isn't the rig anymore. This is his own bed, in his own bedroom. His wife is still asleep next to him. The game gives you a moment to take all of this in. It's one of the few moments of true comfort you as a player are ever afforded. The only thing you can really do in this scene is approach the door and leave. But you just played through all that terror. You know what's coming. You know what will happen if you leave now. Kaz says goodbye to his sleeping wife, promises to be home soon, and opens the bedroom door onto an endless expanse of gray ocean. It begs a question. What if Kaz hadn't left? Is running away, putting an ocean of distance between you and everything you love for who knows how long, really better than risking some prison time? Maybe if Kaz hadn't let the fear win, if he just let go sooner and faced the music, he would have at least been able to come back. Maybe this final scene would have been a glance at a life awaiting him, rather than a life lost. Wouldn't it have been better for Kaz if he had just never been afraid at all? Melancholia is a Lars von Trier film from 2011, and if you've ever seen a von Trier movie, you know that they're the opposite of blissful. In the movie, a rogue planet called Melancholia has emerged from behind the sun and is traveling through the solar system right toward Earth. The story follows two estranged sisters, Claire and Justine, as they grapple with their impending doom. NASA claims Melancholia will scoot harmlessly past our planet, but Claire and Justine aren't so sure. As the rogue planet inches closer and closer, and the more optimistic predictions inevitably prove to be wrong, it becomes clear that this is the end. There's nothing to do and nowhere to go, as Claire's young son Leo puts it. By the end of the week, all life on Earth, and therefore, according to Justine, all life in the universe, will be wiped out. Justine and Claire are very different people. Claire has a wealthy husband, a family estate, and a precocious little boy to take care of. Justine cheated on her husband on the night of their wedding and then immediately quit her job. Claire has a lot going on for her, with a picturesque, if stress-inducing life. Justine is a self-saboteur in the middle of a depressive spiral. When they realize they're about to die, they sort of start to trade places. Claire, who has always had her life together, has a complete breakdown, to the point that she can barely care for her own son. Justine, who until a few days ago didn't even have the strength to bathe herself, steps up to comfort her young nephew. She's come to terms with what she always knew would happen. Now she has to be strong for everyone else. Throughout the movie, there's this strange implication that Justine has some sort of extrasensory perception, some kind of spiritual connection to Melancholia. She professes to just know things, such as how many beans are in a jar or that there's no life anywhere besides on Earth. While her sister cowers away from Melancholia's approach, Justine treats it with a sort of reverence. She's known from the beginning that the entire planet is about to be destroyed, while everyone around her was in denial. She's had her breakdown, she's cut the ties that would make it too hard to leave her life behind, and now she's waking up. The last shot of the movie shows Claire, Justine, and Leo sitting on the lawn, holding hands as Melancholia speeds toward them. There's an impact. The ground shakes, the planet is crumbling to dust. Claire screams and flinches away, while Justine sits perfectly still, just waiting. You see her face for just a moment, and she looks relieved, almost smiling. The apocalypse is here, and Justine isn't afraid. She's glad. Like Still Wakes the Deep, Melancholia ends with the character accepting their demise. The difference here is that Justine doesn't try to fight it, while Kaz's story asks if it might be better to not be afraid in the first place. Melancholia answers with a resounding no. Faced with her own inevitable demise, Justine wasn't afraid. And that's what's so horrifying about this movie. We can relate to the fear that Kaz and Claire experience. For Justine, it just seems so tragic that she found her life to be so horrible that she saw complete annihilation as a relief. Is that really better than being afraid? In 1997, sheriff's deputies entered a mansion in the San Diego suburbs and found the rotting corpses of 39 people. These 39 people, all members of a New Age religious group called Heaven's Gate, had committed ritual suicide. They thought that they were evacuating Earth and catching a ride to heaven on a comet. They were told that this would lead them to evolving to their next-level bodies. In reality, they had been lured into a death cult, and they were thrilled to die. I want to read you this graduation note that the members left on the Heaven's Gate website right before they, departed. Hale Bop's approach is the marker we've been waiting for, the time for the arrival of the spacecraft from the level above human to take us home to their world, in the literal heavens. Our 22 years of classroom here on planet Earth is finally coming to conclusion. Graduation from the human evolutionary level. We are happily prepared to leave this world and go with T's crew. Still Wakes the Deep and Melancholia are fiction. They get to be a little spectacular with how they explore this idea. The Heaven's Gate incident is not. It was a real-life example of people succumbing to a sense of cosmic bliss. The members of Heaven's Gate had managed to convince themselves that their excruciating deaths would be a good thing, that it would lead them to eternal life as extraterrestrial beings in paradise, as long as they gave up their humanity. From their perspective, this ritual of self-dissolution was joyful and worthy of exaltation. From the outside, we recognize it for the horror story that it is. As horrifying as the Heaven's Gate incident was, the whole earning eternal life in paradise if you meet these specific parameters thing is, pretty ordinary. If you want to get taken along to heaven during the rapture, you have to be a saved Christian. There's a Buddhist belief that if you want to reach nirvana, you have to give up your earthly desires. Even in the secular world, you have the concept of ego death, where you take drugs or engage in therapies designed to dismantle your self-concept, release your selfishness, narcissism, prejudice, and become the best version of you. But aren't these all also examples of willing self-dissolution? Wouldn't they all also technically require giving up part of who I am? If I do unlock my eternal self, will it be me or something that used to be me? Why is it that this concept is scary in the case of Heaven's Gate, but the complete opposite in all these other situations? How is it that human beings can be both terrified by this idea and at the same time, in so many cases, aspire toward it? It's almost as if you value the idea of releasing your fears, see the ability to get past all the sticky, undesirable parts of selfhood as a virtue, and at the same time, you know that those things make you, you. Fear is not this isolate thing within a person. Your fears are reflexive. They're informed by what you value. For characters like Kaz and Claire, they're clearly terrified of losing their families. For people like Justine, who feel like they don't have anything to lose, fear need not apply. And I do mean fear here, not anxiety. I'm not trying to imply that arachnophobia stems from a deep-seated philosophical love of a spiderless existence. I'm talking about existential fears, the ones tied to who you are and what you want for yourself. If you never experienced any fear at all, one possible implication of that would be that you just don't value anything. And if you don't value anything, why are you here? How do you derive a sense of meaning from that kind of existence? I understand in theory that liberation from fear may feel like a relief. Fear is unpleasant to experience. Why waste all that energy in paralyzing terror if you could just not do that? But the more I think about it, the more it seems to me that fear is, in a way, cosmically validating, necessary to tie you to who you are. If you don't have that tether, who you are might just disappear. It's one thing to be immolated in a ball of celestial fire or consumed by an eldritch god thing. It's another to just stop being, to have no self-concept, to willingly relinquish who you are. The only thing scarier than cosmic horror is not being scared at all. You might find it a little weird that I just managed to get through an entire video about cosmic horror without ever once mentioning H.P. Lovecraft. Part of that is because, to be honest, we've just made a lot of content about him already. He is kind of regarded as the father of cosmic horror, after all. What you probably wouldn't necessarily guess is that this wide, cosmic perspective largely comes from the unfathomably small breadth of Lovecraft's life. His isolation, his fear of the entire world. We actually made a whole documentary about this process. It's part of our Worldsmith series, which you can find over on Nebula. Along with exclusive content like Worldsmiths, you can watch all of our usual videos there, ad-free, no sponsor spots at all. There's even older Tale Foundry stuff over there that you won't find here on YouTube. And, this might surprise you, our future content is over there too. Don't want to wait for the next Tale Foundry episode? You can watch it on Nebula right now, a whole week before it releases here on YouTube. Seriously, here it is, waiting for you to go watch it. Nebula is really nothing like YouTube. It's not just a platform, it's an enabler. It changes the paradigm of making video content online. Not only does it provide a place for us where we don't have to worry about demonetization or censorship, but Nebula actually pays for all the unique stuff we do over there. And there is a lot of unique stuff. They just recently released the final episode of a new series, The Getaway, where they sent 6 creators on a 600-mile road trip to win $10,000. The problem? There's a secret snitch among them, sabotaging everything they do. The other problem? They're all the snitch, and they just don't know it. It's legitimately such a delight to watch 6 YouTubers constantly getting in each other's way. Seriously, so fun. From original narrative dramas to game shows to podcasts to exclusive video essays to our series Worldsmiths, Nebula is just bursting with good stuff from good creators and growing all the time. The funny thing about Nebula offering so much is that somehow it's actually cheaper than almost any other service. Usually it's just $6 a month or $60 a year, but if you use our link go.nebula.tv/talefoundry, you'll get 40% off, bringing that low price down even further to just $36 a year, which comes out to just $3 a month. I've never heard of another streaming service that cheap. And when you inevitably love Nebula, they also have a unique way of allowing you to share that love. they give you guest passes to hand out. It's not a free trial, there's no payment info required or anything like that. You just give one of these things to a friend and they can come watch whatever they want on Nebula for free. No restrictions at all, and the creator behind that content will still get paid because Nebula rules. Again, visit go.nebula.tv/TaleFoundry to get Nebula for just $3 a month. We have so much content over there just waiting for you to go watch it. I really hope you will. Anyway, that's all for this one. Thanks for watching and keep making stuff up. I'll see you next week. Bye!